Hello, welcome to Greeting Star. Today we're going to be making a Valentine's Day card, which you can see here, and I'll be using several different supplies. So to start off with, I have this pre-cut card, and I'm using these dies, the framelits, the Sizzix framelits dies, to cut out a heart from the front of the card. I'm going to use that cutout later. And when you use those dies, you can emboss also if you use that embossing pad that you just saw there. I'll be using this vellum. It's a 65-pound weight vellum cardstock from Coordinations that I got probably from Joann's, Michael's, or something like that, and my alcohol markers by Spectrum Noir. You can see here that it has two different nibs, and I'm using the larger nib because I want to cover more area. And as I'm applying this to the vellum here, I'm being careful just to go ahead and just do one stripe instead of coloring back and forth, so I get more of an even coverage there. And you can see that it has a really that streaking effect is really cool. I think I really like that for the Valentine's heart because it's going to show through that heart. And so here's the last color that I'm using, and all of my supplies are listed in the description below with links to where you can purchase them. Now this dries really quickly. I didn't have to wait very long at all, and I'm just using regular rubbing alcohol to clean off my craft mat there. So I'm going to adhere this piece of vellum with this special vellum adhesive, and it's supposed to, be appropriate for vellum because you are not supposed to really be able to see it through the vellum. So I think that using it like this on the inside of the card is fine. If you were going to use it on the outside of the card, I don't think it works that great because you can still see it a little bit. And then I just took my little paper punch here in the shape of a heart and punched it through a stencil that I already had. And I'm going to use some more of that alcohol with some little Q-tips to remove some of that ink so that you can see hearts there on the front. Now the trick here is to make sure that your Q-tip is not saturated. So you definitely want to dab off onto a paper towel before you try to remove that alcohol ink. And then you can see here that I never really I never really dipped it back in the alcohol again. I didn't need to. And then I also went ahead and used a dry Q-tip to sort of absorb any alcohol that might still be left on the surface of that vellum. So you can see that it takes that alcohol ink off really easily. You can also do this with alcohol inks blending solution if you have that, if you don't want to use the pure alcohol. But I mean, pretty much everybody has alcohol, right? So that's the quick draw. So anyway, after I get through removing the ink, all of the ink that I want, I'm going to use these Sakura glaze pens, and I actually only decide to use one of them, which you see here. I never use the second one. So I'm just going to use this pen to go in and outline these little hearts to give them a little bit more definition. I thought that you could probably see them a little bit better if I outlined them. And this glaze is really neat. It sort of dries like, it has sort of a embossed look, a heat embossed look when it dries, so that's really nice and shiny and attractive to the eye. So I went ahead and outlined all of these hearts, and it looked really cute. If you wanted to, you could stop at that point, but I did not do that. I decided to go ahead and take my Uniball Signo white gel pen and add more detail. So I'm just doodling along here, adding dots to the inside of one and swirls to the inside of the other, and then I decided to go ahead and do some lines, and then I decided to go ahead and do some little scallops around the edge of the other one there. So I'm just playing around doodling whatever looks good to me. And here where that alcohol ink kind of bled a little bit outside of the heart, I just decided to outline it a couple times to try to hide that, and I thought it looked good that way. So then here I'm just adding some dots to the outlines of it, and here dots and dashes and dots and dashes. There's so many different ways you can use doodling to enhance your cards. I just love it. It's so fun, and it also adds a little bit of a personal touch. I really love that too. So I'm trying to decide what other doodles I can use. So I think I tried squares here with some dots around the outside. And then for this little last heart, I'm just going to add some lines coming out of the heart, sort of like rays of sunlight, if you will. And that finishes up my doodling for this card. The only thing I have left to do is add a sentiment. So I'm going to use this Heidi Swamp stamp set here, and it says "You are special," and I'm going to heat emboss that. And I was going to use that die cut tag there, but I decided not to do that. I'm just going to use these stamps to add the sentiment. And you can see here I'm deciding where I want to place this sentiment on my card, and I decided that centering it right under the heart would looked the best, so I decided to do that. And this is a Martha Stewart acrylic block, and since I'm going to heat emboss, I definitely want to use my anti-static tool. That's that little bag there with some powder in it, and it just prevents the embossing powder from sticking to places I don't want it to stick. And then of course I'm using that Versamark ink here to ink up my stamp, and making sure that I press down for a moment or two to let that absorb into the paper. And then I'm going to add this embossing powder. This is a Hampton Art embossing powder that I got from Joann's. It came in a pack of several different colors. They're small bottles, but really I find that's all you need, because you know, really doesn't take a lot of embossing powder to emboss, and you just return that extra to the bottle and save it for later. So here is my heat gun, my heat tool that I'm using to melt that embossing powder, and I just never get tired of watching that turn into that beautiful shiny embossed thing. Okay, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please visit my blog at greetingstar.org. You can find lots of other information as well as digital freebies, and check out my ebook at amazon.com/author/greetingstar. It's called Illustrated Card Making for Beginners. It's great for not only beginners but also anyone who is interested in making cards. There's step-by-step instructions for making about 3 different cards, as well as lots of information about products that you'll need to make cards. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.